China just broke ranks with NASA and issued an official warning about 3I Atlas. And what they revealed about this mysterious object has completely shattered the narrative NASA's been feeding us for months. This wasn't a diplomatic statement or scientific debate. China's space program just publicly declared that Atlas is exhibiting capabilities NASA keeps denying exist. They released tracking data showing impossible maneuvers. They shared observations of technology that shouldn't be there, and they warned the world to prepare for something NASA insists won't happen. But here's what makes this absolutely explosive. Within hours, Russia backed China's warning, then India, then Japan. One by one, space agencies across the globe started supporting China's assessment, while NASA maintains complete radio silence. Either the entire international space community is participating in mass delusion about Atlas's capabilities, or NASA has been lying to us. And based on what China just revealed, it's becoming very clear which scenario is true. The geopolitical space race just revealed something both superpowers have been tracking differently. China decided the world deserves to know. NASA decided we should stay in the dark. Let's get straight to what China observed about Atlas, because their findings are absolutely mind-blowing and completely contradict everything NASA has told us. China's deep space tracking network captured Atlas performing maneuvers that should be physically impossible for a natural object. Over a 48-hour observation period, Atlas decelerated by 5,000 mph, held a stable position in space for 6 hours, then accelerated back to its original velocity. Think about what that means. Comets don't hit the brakes. Asteroids don't pause mid-flight. Natural space objects follow predictable paths determined by gravity and momentum. Atlas is actively controlling its movement, like a spacecraft navigating through our solar system. A propulsion expert analyzing China's data made it simple. What they documented is powered flight. No question about it. The acceleration profiles, the velocity changes, the ability to maintain station keeping, all of this requires engines. Advanced engines using technology we can barely comprehend. But the propulsion capabilities are just the beginning. China's radio telescope arrays detected something even more extraordinary about Atlas. It's broadcasting complex signals that show unmistakable signs of intelligent design. The transmissions aren't random electromagnetic noise. They're structured, organized, and using modulation techniques that require sophisticated technology. China detected frequency hopping, where signals rapidly switch between different frequencies to avoid interference or detection. That's a military communication technique. Natural phenomena don't do that. The signals also contain what appears to be error correction codes, mathematical structures designed to ensure data integrity when transmitting through noisy space. Again, that's advanced technology, not natural radio emissions. One radio astronomer who reviewed China's signal analysis described it as shocking. These transmissions show engineering principles. Someone or something designed a communication system, built it, and is actively using it. Atlas isn't just an object drifting through space. It's a platform transmitting information with clear purpose. China's space-based telescopes also captured high-resolution images of Atlas that reveal surface features NASA's images somehow never showed clearly. The Chinese imagery shows geometric patterns on Atlas's surface, straight lines, right angles, symmetrical arrangements that look strikingly artificial. Natural space objects are chaotic. Asteroids and comets have irregular, random surface features formed by collisions, thermal stress, and gravitational forces. Atlas shows organized structures that suggest deliberate construction. Now here's where things get really interesting and really suspicious. NASA has been observing Atlas with equipment just as sophisticated as China's. So why are their conclusions so dramatically different? For months, NASA has characterized Atlas as an unusual but ultimately natural interstellar object. Yes, it has some strange properties, they admit, but nothing that definitively proves artificial origin. Just an interesting comet with some peculiar features worth studying. But China's data shows propulsion, structured communications, and geometric surface features. These aren't subtle anomalies that could be interpreted different ways. These are clear signatures of technology. Either China's equipment is severely malfunctioning in very specific ways, or NASA has been selectively releasing data that downplays Atlas's true nature. Multiple sources suggest NASA detected the same propulsion signatures. China observed, but chose not to make them public. Internal communications allegedly described trajectory anomalies requiring further analysis before public disclosure, which is bureaucratic language, for we found something alarming that we're not ready to share. A former NASA scientist speaking anonymously described the agency's approach. There's enormous pressure to avoid making extraordinary claims without extraordinary evidence, but sometimes that caution becomes denial. When you see propulsion signatures, but you're terrified of saying this might be alien technology, you end up downplaying obvious evidence to avoid controversy. NASA's public statements about Atlas have been carefully worded to technically avoid lying while misleading the public about what they've actually observed. They say things like, currently no evidence of artificial propulsion, when what they mean is, we haven't officially classified the anomalies as propulsion, even though that's clearly what they look like. The electromagnetic emissions are another example. NASA acknowledges detecting unusual radio signatures from Atlas, but characterizes them as poorly understood natural phenomena. Meanwhile, China's analysis shows clear communication protocols. NASA isn't saying China is wrong, they're just not confirming it publicly. An aerospace analyst described the discrepancy. NASA and China are looking at the same object with comparable technology. They're seeing the same data, but NASA is interpreting it through the most conservative possible lens because they're terrified of the implications. China apparently decided the truth matters more than avoiding panic. The image discrepancy is particularly damning. NASA has released numerous photos of Atlas, but they're always at resolutions or angles that make surface details unclear. China's images taken with similar equipment show those geometric patterns clearly. Either NASA's imaging team is remarkably incompetent or they're deliberately releasing images that hide Atlas's artificial features. Let's focus on what Atlas itself has been doing, because its behavior tells us far more than any government, statement or press release ever could. The propulsion maneuvers China documented aren't random. Atlas has been making systematic course corrections that suggest deliberate navigation toward specific objectives. It's not just drifting through the solar system. It's visiting locations with apparent purpose. Atlas performed detailed surveys of Mars, deploying objects to the surface and conducting intensive scans of specific regions. That's reconnaissance behavior. It methodically mapped areas of scientific or strategic interest, gathered data, and moved on. Now Atlas is maneuvering toward Earth using the same systematic approach. It's not on a simple flyby trajectory. It's adjusting course repeatedly, apparently fine-tuning its approach to achieve optimal positioning relative to our planet. An orbital mechanics specialist explained what the trajectory shows. Atlas is navigating like a spacecraft approaching a destination. It's making the kinds of course corrections you'd make if you wanted to arrive at specific coordinates at a specific time. This isn't ballistic flight. This is piloted navigation. The electromagnetic transmissions have also evolved throughout Atlas's journey through our solar system. Early transmissions were simple, almost like test broadcasts to verify systems were functioning. As Atlas approached inner solar system objects, the transmissions became more complex and targeted. When Atlas was near Mars, transmission intensity increased dramatically and appeared directed toward the Martian surface, possibly communicating with the objects it deployed there. Now, as Atlas approaches Earth, transmissions are intensifying again and seem directed toward our planet. A communication specialist analyzing the signal patterns described them as progressive. Early signals were like testing, is this working? Current transmissions are structured, purposeful, and appear designed to convey specific information. Whatever Atlas is, it's trying to communicate and getting more sophisticated in its attempts. Atlas has also demonstrated an ability to respond to its environment. When it passed through a region of space with higher than normal micrometeorite density, it adjusted its orientation to minimize impact risk on critical surfaces. That's active threat response, not passive drifting. When Jupiter's gravity began affecting Atlas's trajectory, it compensated with thrust adjustments that maintained its intended course. Natural objects don't compensate for gravitational perturbations, they just get pulled along. Atlas actively counters forces that would alter its path. Perhaps most tellingly, Atlas appears to be studying us as much as we're studying it. Its positioning during Mars observation provided optimal lines of sight to Earth. Its current trajectory will bring it close enough to Earth for detailed observation, while remaining outside easy reach of our defensive capabilities.